Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Spoiler Warning Podcast. This is review number 647 with a review of Greenland. I'm Christopher Schnese.
And I'm Stephen Miller.
And I'm David Klein, #1 Gerard Butler fan.
And if you're joining us for the first time, the Spoiler Warning Podcast is a weekly film review program. Each week on the show, we're going to dive into, discuss, and argue over the latest films coming to a streaming platform near you. This week, we already had a nice lengthy review of the film Tenet, so that is available for you in the feed. But next up, we're talking about the real reason we brought David Klein back to talk about film.
Yes.
As he said, #1 Gerard Butler fan, and this is the next #1 Gerard Butler film.
Honestly, yes. Absolutely.
And we're going to be talking about it. So yeah, for a little bit of backstory on this episode, we have known Greenland has been coming out for like a long time, and I think that in our little group message that we have between the three of us, we have been like, every time there's new news of a potential date, I know when I see it, I will drop it in the group chat just to make sure we know this review is coming. So I think it's safe to say we've been geared up and ready and excited to review this film.
And just to be clear, if this were in a movie theater, I would see the shit out of it in a movie theater. Just like I did with that piece of shit Hunter Killer, Gerard Butler's last movie, which really sucked. This movie, also theater. Was
Hunter Killer submarines?
Yes, okay. Bad. Unwatchably bad. This movie, thoroughly watchable.
Well, the people listening to this don't know or care about Hunter Killer. Or Hunter Killer? No, Hunter Killer.
I think Hunter Killer is the thing that isn't sponsoring this podcast.
Yeah. which I wish somebody would anti-sponsor it, because Hunter Killer, not good. Hunter Killer, also not good, apparently.
What is happening? What is Hunter Killer?
Hunter Biden, best thing to happen to America.
Oh, no. Tucker Carlson just entered the chat.
I think all that Tenet talk just like fried my brain. But whether we're talking about Hunter Killer, or anything, or any of the Has Fallen films, we are always going to be excited to talk about Gerard Butler, and that is what we are here to do on this episode, if we could actually get to the review. So what do you say, guys? We just fast forward and go and play the trailer for this movie so we can start talking about it.
Great.
Is this Clark, this interstellar comet? Right? I mean, yeah, big news.
I don't see Clark.
Oh, maybe he's still sleeping.
Dad.
Some of Clark's larger fragments are now expected to enter our atmosphere.
That's right, and others are just... What are they saying?
More of the same.
I bet it's going to make a heck of a show.
Whoa. Where are they going?
I don't know. One first chunk is about to hit.
Hit?
Only part of it. It's going in the ocean.
2.
Would you look at that?
1.
Wait, where's the explosion?
We now are getting word that the fragment has hit Central Florida.
Oh my God.
Wait, are some more pieces gonna hit?
Come on, let's go.
But the sky's on fire.
2 days. They got it all wrong. There's a ton of fragments. Planet killers.
Space agencies are predicting an extinction level event.
We're going to get together, all right, kiddo? We're just trying to get to safety.
They've been tracking the military flights to bunkers in Greenland.
It's our only chance.
Move back! Perimeter breach. Runway 33.
Allison! Nathan! Allison!
Where's Dad?
We'll find him. It's okay. Clark's largest fragment will hit in less than 24 hours.
I swear, I'm going to get my family into that bunker. I know you will, son.
If you are hearing this broadcast, seek shelter immediately.
What is it? What's going on?
If you are hearing this broadcast, seek shelter immediately.
Hang on, Nathan.
Seek shelter immediately. Seek shelter immediately.
All right, so that was the trailer for Greenland. It takes place in a world where there's a giant comet called Clark, which is hurtling itself towards Earth, and people thought it was just going to be passed by and everybody get a nice, beautiful little show. Turns out, not really true. Chunks of it that are planet killers are going to hit the Earth, and Gerard Butler needs to try to keep his family alive and possibly get them to bunkers that exist in Greenland, which is where the title of the film comes from. David Klein, what did you think of Greenland?
I really enjoyed it. I went in with extremely low expectations because of what you just said. It sounds really stupid. And Gerard Butler does not exactly make the greatest of movies. I think he's got some pretty bad stinkers out there. But I actually really enjoyed it. I thought there was a lot of tension. I really loved this family and following them along. And the impossible task of getting the family to Greenland, which at some moments I just thought, oh, well, the movie's over because there's no way they're going to get out of this. But I just loved this ride, and I loved imagining a functioning government was really exciting for me, where there's actually processes and people with orders who actually follow them, and it kind of makes sense. There's a plan. And I liked that this was a very small story. When you think about Deep Impact and Armageddon and 2012, which is what I was constantly thinking about while watching this movie, those are big stories that involved governments and lots of people, and this was just one family trying to figure out how to get to Greenland. So I think this is I was shocked that I kept texting you like, hey guys, I think this is actually a really good movie. I can't believe it. Yeah, so very, very happy with this one.
Stephen.
Yeah, I am very much in David's camp, actually. I was not expecting anything. This was also a 5 a.m. watch for me the following morning. That's just kind of been the rut I'm stuck in lately with watching movies. And I think the movie benefits a lot from the fact that it is very small, very low scale. It isn't trying to be crazy, destructive, Roland Emmerich type of effect movie. Like, you get things on the periphery, kind of like in a movie like Take Shelter or in like a Melancholia or something. Like, there are things happening, but it isn't like the primary reason you are watching it is to watch things get fucked up. What you're really watching is a family being disconnected, trying to be connected again, and then trying to survive. This movie basically is a series of calling it shot over and over and over again. Like, the movie is all set up and payoff in a way that is very, very, very obvious, but I still found pretty satisfying. Like, I took notes the first 10 minutes of the movie of all the things that I knew they were going to pay off. Wife can run 5 miles. Son has insulin shots. Somebody buys juice. That actually didn't show up again, but I thought it would. A bag falls out. Like, people looking in the back seat in a certain way. Like, there are all these things where, you know what the movie is doing 100%. And yet I found it, relaxing and pleasant that the movie was following through on what you knew it was doing. Like, it did. Maybe it was just my Tenet detox, where I was like, this is a movie where I know everything it is teeing up for me, and it's just gonna lob it up and then swat it away, and that is all I want out of this particular movie. It did have some touchy-feely stuff that I think extends into Schmaltz territory. This movie treats FEMA the way Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always treats Planned Parenthood, in a way that felt out of place with the rest of the film. There are a few things where it feels like this movie wants to be a very important movie that is highlighting real-world things in a way that I feel don't give me that. I want Gerard Butler reuniting with his family. I don't need to know why FEMA is great for the world and the military is great. That isn't what I signed up for here. But for the most part, yeah, I thought it was kind of lovely. I think the family, everyone is really good in the family. Gerard Butler is good as the stoic dad, kind of playing a Dwayne Johnson in San Andreas type character, where there's some imperfect marriage, but by the end, things are going to be okay because he will save them, we hope. Morena Baccarin as the wife, I thought she was really, really great, the wife and mother.
She's
and
amazing.
Then the kid too, it's a good child actor. Again, they're teeing up hey, he's going to be a diabetic kid. bad things are going to happen, but like he does it well. Like he never ever annoyed me or felt like cheap or overly coached or whatever. Like I thought he was really good in the movie. I like when Roy from The Office shows up. Big fan of that whole sequence. It is interesting, this movie coming out in the COVID pandemic, because obviously there are some similarities between the different types of people at play and people in the COVID situation. In particular, there is a party at some point that we pass on a rooftop that it made me wonder, like, did they retroactively edit this movie after coronavirus happened? Because it feels like a giant subtweet of people who throw COVID parties. Yeah, I liked it. Like, I didn't think it was amazing. I thought it was comfortable. It was comfortable in the way that like a 90s action film is comfortable, but it had like the family dynamic and the heart that I was looking for. My biggest complaint, which I don't know if there's going to be a spoiler section or not, so I'm just going to say it now. There was a moment, maybe 5 minutes before the end of this movie, where if it had just ended there, I would have clapped. I would have stood up and clapped and been like, hell yeah. Like, you stuck to your convictions and I'm here for it. The movie decided to give you a real ending instead of the art house ending I wanted, but I'm still happy with it.
It's funny, listening to, reflecting on what you said after what I said, it's almost like we're surprised when a movie doesn't do the easy, obvious thing. Like Gerard Butler screaming at the president of the United States, or a kid who's super annoying, or I'm trying to think of other examples, but like things you expect from a dumb movie. And this one actually restrained itself significantly. You got it. Come on, you got it.
This film was fine. I think I enjoyed watching it enough. I think the most interesting stuff relates to a conversation that we had that isn't going to be in the final version of this episode. I'm really interested in we know pretty quickly that the government has known for a long time what was going to happen with this comet and the fallout that was going to come from it. Somehow all the governments in the world were able to be in cahoots and decide not to tell their citizens. But imagine the amount of time it takes to put in place a thing that piggybacks, to basically get the system in which you can pick all these people, unless there's just always been a contingency that, like, one day there will be a comet, guys. We should create a list of every single citizen in the world and, like, try to make this happen. Like,
yeah, maybe spend that money on building more bunkers.
I read a book about this called like Granite Rock or something like that, about like all the planning the U.S. government has done for the end of the world, or for, war with Russia or the Soviet Union. And let me tell you, none of it ever works. It's always a disaster. They're never prepared, and it's comical.
Possibly work when like population growth is exponential. You can do all the planning you want, but every year you have to increase what is going in the bunkers, and you've already decided how big they are. So unless you're planning for exponential growth and you're like, look, it's either going to be heat death of the universe, or it's going to be a comet. So let's plan for like just before the Earth gets livable, and this is what we're going to do. I don't know. Anyways, that's beside the point. I was interested in sort of the mechanics of this. Like, I was more interested in the road version of this film than in the film that it actually was. I also think that Gerard Butler is the secret villain of this film. There are so many decisions and actions he takes that fuck over so many other people that, like, I mean, it's accidental, right? Like, he's not, but I mean, he's definitely the problem in a lot of different places, and simple things that he could have avoided. I don't know. It seemed like there's a bunch of times where I'm like, man, he really botched this move right here. What the hell's going on here? So I thought that was kind of funny and interesting. I also had the thoughts that David had, where I was like, man, it's a good thing that Gerard Butler builds buildings and doesn't drive limos, because it's really increasing his chances in this world.
And that's a 2012 reference.
Yeah. I was like, this is like eerily close to 2012, except there isn't Avengers helicarriers that are taking people to the bunkers in Greenland. But yeah, I mean, I thought the film was fine. I think what it does good is it shows like how crazy the situation would be, just like how frantic things would get suddenly and out of nowhere if this was kept under wraps. It did also make me think, like, man, if I lived in the universe of this film, I wish I lived in Florida because I just want to go right away and just be like, I want to be vaporized by the first big boulder. I don't want to have to live in the world where like everybody's going crazy and stuff like that.
This is like part 2 to your first question. That's an inside joke for just the people on this podcast.
Yeah.
Which, isn't that just define the podcast as well?
Yeah.
But yeah, I had fun with it. I enjoyed, I like Gerard Butler. He's a cool dude. I like
the coolest.
But yeah, I enjoyed the film.
Yeah, there's a couple things that bothered me. Save it for spoilers. But other than that, like you said, I think the description 90s comfortable action movie is very apt.
Yeah, I think like the core of this movie, the emotional core that makes it work for me a little bit better than just the mindless disaster movie version of it, is it's kind of about like the fear of families being separated. And in this case, right, it's like the divorce or threat of divorce, of family separation, like the kid not having the mom and dad together anymore, the dad not being able to provide for them anymore, suddenly being given this literal action movie thing where for much of the movie they're separated and he has to fight to get back together with them. And that, like, it's a simple premise, but I think like the emotions of it work really well. I did want to say, I think the kid actor is good. I liked him through most of it. This does fall prey to one of those things that I think David Chen posted about, like a Reddit, like a subreddit that is all devoted to quotes that people say their kids made that are way too prescient and adult to possibly be things that their kids said. And this has one of those towards the end of the movie where the kid that has been saying almost nothing the whole movie goes, "My friend said when you die, your life flashed before your eyes, but I wish it happened when you lived. That way you could see all the good memories and still be happy in the moment."
Hey, are you saying you weren't poetic when you were 9 years old? Come on.
Yeah, like you've been plugging your ears and screaming for the rest of this movie.
He's spent the last hour and a half trying to think of that one quote to say.
Yeah.
Also, he attributed it to another friend who could be just ahead of his age.
Yeah, I know. Teddy might be a genius, and this kid is just a plagiarist. I don't know.
This kid does go through a lot in this movie.
Yeah. I don't really... Oh, so we're probably not going to do, like, spoilers for this movie, I think, because everyone's brain is zonked from the Tenet review. But I will say... So basically, when I talk about the ending of this movie, there is a thing very relevant to the quote that our wise friend Teddy said about what happens right before you die, that should happen right before you live. There is a moment where this movie could have ended that would have left that ambiguous in a way that I think would have been like turning the mirror to the audience and saying, look, you're all going through something like this. Maybe it doesn't matter how it turns out. You know, maybe the beautiful thing is just that we're here right now, you know? And the movie didn't do that. But if it had cut to black, I would have been really, really impressed with what they did.
Yeah. Yeah. Instead it did, the 2012 style, I guess.
Yeah. We will rebuild.
Oh, now you're doing Deep Impact.
And scene.
Should we do spoilers? Because I'd had one big problem with this movie.
Okay, let's do a brief spoilers. Let's do verdicts first.
Okay. Oh, verdicts, yeah. Remind me, what's the list?
I hate everything. All right, well, sounds like we do want to do spoilers. So for non-spoiler wanting people, David Klein, let's give them your verdict. If you're going to give this a must-see, a recommend with a caveat, wait for rental, pass with a caveat, or a must-avoid, what would you give it?
Wait for rental. And when I say wait for rental, I think I paid $19.99 to rent it, and I would just wait for the typical $4.99 or whatever it usually is on iTunes. It was fun. I love Gerard Butler. Everything he does is great. Can't wait for Den of Thieves 2. But yeah, this one's not like the greatest movie, but it's fun. I think I put it in the same bucket as 2012, Deep Impact, Armageddon, where it's like there's some fun stuff going on here, and I appreciate that it's a small story about a family trying to survive.
If you're excited for Den of Thieves 2, you'll be really excited for Den of Thieves.
I hate you.
Steven, what did you think of Greenland?
I mean, I think the logical part of my brain should put it lower because it is, kind of a typical story, just done well. But I think the cast really sells it. I mean, much like the villain in every Scooby-Doo mystery, it's always the butler. And the butler does great here. So I'm going to give it a recommend with a caveat. I think this movie was enjoyable, and I think it's one of the many things that Quarantine Brain helped for me, because when we've all been sitting inside for, 9+ months at this point, a movie about people facing an existential crisis and trying to deal with it just kind of felt more, I don't know, it resonated more with me than I think it would in a typical 2012 type of situation. So I don't know, I liked it. I liked that they kept it small, made it be about the family. Good 90s vibes. Yeah, I'm here for it. Not doing anything amazing, but I thought it was good. And I think even if you paid the $20, I don't think you will be angry that you spent it. Though, yeah, you could probably wait. You could probably wait for it to be $4 or $5.
Yeah, I really don't have any problems with this film. I don't know. Maybe it's that I watched Tenet 3.5 times and then I watched Greenland. It just didn't live up to what I had trained myself to have. But in all seriousness,
time only moves in one direction in this movie.
I want to see these comets going back into space.
What if when the bunker opens and another group of them come back and they're going into the bunker?
Now I want to do a mashup between Tenet and Greenland.
I mean, let's be real. Gerard Butler would crush in Tenet. He would be amazing.
The future sent the comets to clear a way for future people to come back and live in the Earth before global warming happens.
Did I actually say my review? It's wait for it all.
Yeah. How did we not mention Geostorm, by the way, when talking about this movie?
So I still haven't seen Geostorm.
Don't. It's so bad, but maybe you should, because he's a genius. He's the world's smartest man, and you gotta respect that.
Does he have a diabetic kid?
But he has a brother.
Then I'm out.
I will say this is the much better version of Geostorm in every way, with a very similar concept, but just executed way, way, way better.
Cool. Well, that's going to do it for the non-spoiler part of our review of Greenland. For those who don't want to be spoiled, let's just go into spoilers now.
At the end, when you see the bunkers, there's 10 airplanes. And I feel like there should be thousands of airplanes.
No, the airplanes are going back to other places to get more people. Duh. The planes can't just sit there.
No, this is the end of the end. This is the last 10 seconds of life. And there should be 1,000 airplanes. That's what they did in 2012. Right. You just saw a field of planes. That bothered me.
Answer me this, David. You're on a runway getting into a plane, and a guy comes up and goes wait, guys, it's 10 seconds from impact. We're just not going to bother taking off. Are you gonna settle for that crap? Or are you going to rush the plane and blow up the airport?
I didn't track what just happened, but it feels a very passive.
Just so we can trace in this episode, Christopher has basically deduced picking specific people based on how qualified they are to live, and now he's deduced hijacking airplanes.
He's off. He's gone. He's banned. Yeah, Roy from The Office, always a blast to see him, even if he's crazy.
Yeah, when did you know that he was going to pull some shit?
10 seconds.
Yeah. When I saw the beard in his
beard, really.
When I saw the beard, yeah. And he started complaining about the government. I was like, oh, God, here we go.
Also, what was his plan? He was really just going to go oh, I lost my bracelet.
Yeah, that was his plan. And I thought it almost worked, but then the kid finally said something.
Thank fucking God the kid said something. The kid's been quiet the whole damn movie, and then he finally goes, they're not my parents.
Tense moment. Big fan.
It was intense. I feel I'm not a parent, but I feel like if I were a parent, that scene would have troubled me a lot. I feel like some innate part of my parentness would be very upset by that.
Yeah. Mindhunter guy as a pilot, I'm on board. Mm-hmm. Cool. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, functioning government. Woo!
How do we feel about the hammer fight? Is that one of the things, Chris, that you're blaming Gerard Butler for?
Well, that was good.
Or are you just blaming him for the plane exploding? Because I don't know that's technically his fault. I don't think it would have been able to take off in time.
If it was taxiing, are people going to, what? It's not like all those people can hold the plane back. No, but the guy was fueling it. That is true.
Yeah, and it's irrational. People would chase a plane.
But either way, here's the thing that I think is dumb. There's that whatever you call the thing that the back thing that lowers so that Tom Cruise can jump out of a plane and do a halo jump. That clearly takes forever, right? It's like a lift in a parking garage, right? It takes a full 60 seconds for that shit to finish moving. There's also a door with a little turnstile on it and you just go, turn it, crank, boom, pop that open, Gerard Butler can get out. When he's like, oh no, I need to get out of there because reasons, the guy could have been like, cool, let me open the hatch and let you jump out, and then we can shut the hatch. By taking like an hour to lower that thing, that's what, like, I don't know, it just seemed crazy.
I don't know the geography of military planes, so I don't know. I don't know that they have the turn cranky door when they're in like the cargo area.
It was in the shot, like, because I turned to Jamie and I was like, why would they not just open the little door?
And
I feel like, did Chris just mute himself for a second when he cursed? That was bizarre.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I feel like in the end of the world, the army guy would be like, sir, sit down, we're taking off. Goodbye. But big fan of Morena. How do you say her first name?
Oh boy, now I'm going to have to look up her name again. Yeah, I think Morena. Morena. That's how I would say it. I think she's Firefly. Brazilian.
She's great. Yeah, so good. Love this movie. Love Gerard. Can't get enough Gerard. More Gerard, please.
Do you think half the tension would have been gone if the characters had the power of 5G?
It would help, but even in 5G, if everyone is trying to call at the same time, I don't know what's going to happen.
Need a mesh network.
And then it's going to give them all the coronavirus.
Thanks, Gates. All right, Greenland.
It's a place. I do feel like, I know for this kind of movie it had to be this way, but Gerard Butler really does get everywhere just in the nick of time. He really doesn't save any buffer in his plans.
His name's not Gerard Buffer.
True.
Oh my
true.
God.
You're right.
All right. We did it. Greenland. Good luck editing this one.
What are we going to see you for next? I mean, we missed the American Pie movies. We wound up going to TIFF instead.
No, that was
virtually.
That was bad. That's a good question. Hopefully Fast 9.
I mean, there is another Has Fallen film that's in the works now.
No way.
Yeah, I texted you with, like, I texted the group chat last week.
Are you sure? I gotta check that.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully that, Fast 9.
Don't forget the new Matrix movie's coming out.
Yes. There's gonna be a lot of good stuff on HBO Max next year. I'm on board. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm ready.
All right.
So we haven't officially signed off on this episode yet. Should we do that?
Do it.
Can you just, like, instead edit in, like, your voice in that presidential announcement way saying, like, this episode is officially over?
But, like, for real, should we close this out?
Let's close it out.
Sure.
All right.
Time for Bonzo.
I think that is going to do it for what may or may not be an episode of this podcast. So for right now, David Klein, if people want to find you throughout the week, where can they do that?
At D.I. Klein on the Twitter. Come talk to me about movies. Let's do it.
Twitter.com/SDavidMiller or SDavidMiller.com.
People can find me at ChristopherRealLife.com or Twitter.com/ChristopherIRL. You can find the podcast over at thespoilerwarning.com where you can get a bunch of the back episodes of the show. If you want to subscribe to the show, you can do so on Overcast, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, or wherever podcasts are found. If you want to know when the episodes go live, you can follow us at Twitter.com/SpoilerWarning, Facebook.com/TheSpoilerWarning, or Instagram.com/TheSpoilerWarning. If you want to get a hold of us directly, you can send an email to fans@thespoilerwarning.com, or you can use the contact form on our site. Music for this episode will come from the soundtrack to Greenland, so hopefully you are enjoying that. Yeah, it's been a bumpy ride, but we made it through this episode. We'll be back next week with reviews of Soul and Wonder Woman 1985.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So should be fun, and hopefully coherent. That's it, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
I can't imagine how you're going to edit this.
I think he's going to lift the whole first question and just make it be like talking about Gerard Butler.